Hello there, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and page turners they were not, but this is the podcast you're looking for.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Marr. That noise you hear is my ventilator. Welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. On this episode of A Larger World. A larger world is where we look at kind of the real world influence, impact, and inspiration of Star Wars. There's been a question that's been weighing on my mind lately, which is a very straightforward question, but also not. Which is, do we take Star Wars too seriously? And it might be funny coming from me, because obviously, because I do this podcast, I do take Star Wars very seriously. But the question is, do fans like me take it too seriously? And I think that there are multiple ways I could answer that question. But let's cast our minds back to when Star Wars came out in 1977. Many of the early reviews and reactions from audiences and from critics definitely cast Star Wars in the light of its fun action-adventure popcorn with no real deep meaning behind it. Siskel and Ebert's early reviews of it were, I believe Ebert said, "What's the meaning of it all? Who knows and who cares?" Those were his exact words. And this was not an uncommon attitude. To most filmgoers and to most critics, Star Wars is good old-fashioned entertainment without any real meaning to it, just good fun. And there are many people, the average moviegoers today, Star Wars is just good old-fashioned fun. And that's what it is. It's very clear that someone like me is going to take umbrage with that idea. But I think I should be fair because it is good old-fashioned fun. It is great old action-adventure that just really makes you feel good, and it's just a good time. And that's what it is. And maybe someone like me needs to be reminded of that every once in a while. But there were fans of Star Wars from the very early days who recognized that there was something more going on here. The idea of a modern fairy tale which follows the classic structure of all myths, fables, and fairy tales. Also, the idea of the Force being a religious idea that anyone of any religion or no religion at all can find meaning. Um, the idea of making a universal religion that everyone can connect to on some level. So there were fans, even from those early days, that were taking it more seriously than the average moviegoer or critic. Now, jump to today. I think that there is a good argument that fans like myself are maybe taking it a little bit too seriously. But I think that with all storytelling, you can look at it on the level of good entertainment, escapist entertainment, or you can look for what is the meaning, what are the lessons. That's what my podcast is about. I'm not here to say, did you know the Imperial Star Destroyer has 7 engines? Or did you know that this ship could go this fast? Those aren't the kind of details that I'm interested in. I'm interested in what is the lesson? What is the connection to my own beliefs? What is it saying about the world and about existence? About love and family and redemption and friendship? Those are the elements that I connect with. And certainly we can say it's packaged in a good, fun adventure. But like with all stories, the lessons are there. And art speaks truth. Art is not just a lie. Art tells us about who we are. And those are the elements that I take seriously with Star Wars. I also am invested in the journey of the characters and the choices they make, and I take those things seriously. But now the question becomes, how serious should it be? As we know, Andor is deadly serious. Andor is Star Wars at its most serious. And I think there have been some fans who want all of Star Wars to be that serious. But the honest truth is, I think that would be a bad idea. Because let's face it, what is Star Wars? A farm boy rescues a princess with the help of a pirate and a giant dog. This isn't exactly highbrow ideas here. And I think that it has often been said by some fans that Andor is the greatest Star Wars there ever was. And I'm actually going to disagree with that idea. Because I still think the original trilogy is the best Star Wars there has ever been. Because Andor, which is excellent, is missing the building blocks that make Star Wars what it is. The Force, the Jedi, a lot of them like pulpy fun is missing from Andor. Now, Andor, I think, demonstrates that you can have the very serious Star Wars. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get The Mandalorian, which is very much the pulpy fun of Star Wars. Star Wars is a buffet. You can have whatever you're in the mood for at that time. Maybe sometimes I'm in the mood for Andor. Maybe other times I'm in the mood for Rebels or the original trilogy or Skeleton Crew or Kenobi, and all of these shows take a different approach to Star Wars. Some very serious, and others very fun, and still others serious and fun. So you can have what you're in the mood for. But as far as the question, do fans like me take Star Wars too seriously? I think the answer is sometimes we do. And I know in my case, I sometimes have to remind myself that this is meant to be good entertainment first and foremost. Certainly, we can look at the original trilogy. On the surface, as fun adventure. And if we want to, we can go deeper and talk about the dangers of fascism, the we can talk about, the all the various quotes from George Lucas, which may or may not be true, depending on when and where he said it. Certainly, if people want to, they can look at the Ewoks and say, oh, it's the Viet Cong because George Lucas said so. Which, personally, I don't exactly buy. Other than, yeah, okay, George, that's great. Um, so we can look at it on multiple levels. Certainly, when I was a kid, I wasn't picking up on these bigger ideas. But even as an adult, as much as we might want to analyze it too much, I think it's important to remember what it is at the very foundation. So, do we take it too seriously? Yes, we do. And also, no. But Star Wars is designed in such a way that in most cases, you can look at it on the surface or dig a little bit deeper, depending on your level of engagement, depending on what you're feeling in the mood for. And so there's so many levels to analyzing Star Wars that are really insightful and amazing. But once in a while, I think we have to remind ourselves to just have fun. So those are my thoughts on whether or not we take it too seriously. But let's remember at the end of the day to have fun with it. And remember what it was like when we saw it when we were kids. And also to remember, what is it teaching us about morality? Of choosing good. So those are my thoughts. My name is Brendan Marr, that noisy hearing my ventilator. Thank you for tuning into A Larger World, presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.